After the holidays, Jimmy returned back from a trip. He went with his family to visit his grandmother. Grams Maggie, as he called her, was a 70-year-old clinical neurotic and elderly figure who always praised Jimmy as a miracle, the one who would save the family of their ancestors' mistakes, including hers as well. She often called him Little King, enough to make the boy paranoid about his fate and burdens. The nostalgia was unbearable. She lived in a cabin in the woods, close to a lake. Jimmy felt depressed, often sleepy and emotional when there. Most of his time he spent listening to classical music, watching ephemera pieces of video and reading Gothic poetry. These familiar visits always seemed never-ending to him, and after 31 sorrowful days, he reached his limit. He slept the whole trip back home to compensate. Arriving home, for the school preparations, Jimmy, still in a bad mood, while looking for his homework transcript inside the school bag, found the rest of the LSD he bought specially for the adventure with Cordelia 1 month ago. The LSD was liquid, contained in a little bottle. He shook it carefully in order to guess how many doses it still had. "Not even one," said the boy, in a low voice. In fact, less than 10% of the dose he took with Delia was available. Knowing this, he dropped all the remaining acid on a candy and ate it whole, thinking it wouldn't do bad or even make him hallucinate during the class. This method is known as microdosing, and the effects are purely energetic increase and mood enhancement, or so does say the internet forums about drugs that he used to participate in. Thereafter, he picks up his bag with all the homework completed and climbed the window vines until he gets close to the ground before he jumped. Skipping breakfast is something that Jimmy does often nowadays. He leaves without the boring kisses of goodbye his mother always has in store for him. Anticipating that it's not the right moment to face Delia or be alone with her, he takes the longest route to school, the alley routes, filled with trees, which he adores. At the class, normally, Jimmy finds problems to concentrate. He is an exceptional student, the top of his class. He doesn't participate in any extracurricular classes or sports club and doesn't have friends, except for the recently acquired Delia. The majority of the students, even seniors, feel intimidated by Jimmy's incomparable scary smart attitude, which he doesn't use to isolate from people, rather, seems natural to him to be best than everybody else on anything he tries. It's the king's fate, Grams Maggie told him so many times. By 10 o'clock Jimmy started to daydream at math class. The strong, enhanced sense of color he attributed to the LSD he took earlier in the morning. When the effects rose in intensity he preferred to just ignore it, like he does with a lot of things. With the passing time, his state aggravated, transforming into mild hallucinatory visions. Numbers and equations on the blackboard shunt and danced before agglomerating together in the form of a serpent. Jimmy felt nauseous and breathless when he gazed deeply at the serpent, the same red bright eyes he saw earlier in his dream. Same bloody eyes of the being Cordelia saw and felt trying to crawl inside her. Thou, the star that seeks the throne, has unveiled the future birth of the yet unborn star, whose bright shall pervade everything, lest, outshining your own brightness, said the amalgamation of colorless symbols shaping a serpent. "What should I do?" Jimmy asked. The class looked at him, confused, as one Catholic congregation would stare at the Pope if the same started a satanic ritual out of nowhere. The serpent blew symbols that traveled inside Jimmy's ear, translating itself into thoughts. "Haven't you noticed someone's absence?" Jimmy rapidly turned his head around, searching for Cordelia, looking in every spot of the room, who was nowhere to be found. "Go and seek," yelled the serpent, turning into numerous worms, some still inside the boy's ear. Each one screamed so loud that remembered the most vivid dream Jimmy ever had. He felt the pulsing pain in his tympani, again. "Arg!" he cried, making, this time, even the teacher confused and scared. He cried another time before he dropped all his belongings over the table before running swiftly through the door and corridor, slipping countless times. Jimmy knew he had to see Cordelia, He regretted not being courageous enough to face her earlier in the morning. Maybe the serpent wouldn't appear again to hurt his ears and bother him if he just had taken the normal route and picked up Delia to school. After the flight of class, the boy perceived his mind slowly ceasing its confusion. The pain ceased, but he still felt the worms crawling inside. Whispers of millions of voices in unison flooded his mind while he was running to Delia's house. We crawl, we die, we never shine. Instead of replying, it occurred to Jimmy to just ignore those hallucinations and continue on the path, running as fast as he could. The voices continued: two kings can't coexist, the order is clear, eat or get eaten. Jimmy feared the possibility of those apparitions being more than drug hallucinations, since he took just a minimal dose and was even dreaming about this when sober. For a moment, the awful argument of the mental disease being inoculated on him by his family, especially Graham's Maggie, rushed to his feet on the asphalt. He felt weak, trembling all over. The boy walked the rest of the way, tormented. Before arriving at the girl's home, the vermin told one more sentence before vanishing of his head. Madness is the perfect state of mind one can attain by understanding the order in chaos and how duality is far-fetched. Abandon all hope, don't fight to come back to your senses, once surpassed the helplessness inside, you'll shine. This last sentence made more sense than the others and was also very differently constructed. A glimpse of clarity overwhelmed Jimmy as he arrived at the destination. Cordelia's house was a huge one, almost porting the title of a mansion. 3 floors, swimming pool on the backyard and 2 hot tubs, one for Delia and the other residing in her parents' bathroom. She was an only child and Jimmy never heard one complaint about it. He began to step, carefully, on the rock path in zigzag not to harm the astounding plants growing everywhere around him. In fact, the Iffalos family garden was elected as the #1 in the neighborhood, for great sadness and jealousy of Jimmy's father, who never accomplished equal beauty or status. Stepping over the stones, one by one, the boy felt the amazing smells of exotic species, colorful flowers he never saw before, neither in books, TV nor his father's gardening magazines. Soon to enter the balcony, he stopped for one last deep breath of that marvelous smell, inhaled with intention, displaying a shy grin while thinking of his dad's disappointment. Finally, he knocked on the front door. "Is Cordelia home?" he asked slightly over the normal tone. "Who wants to know?" responded the voice coming from the other side of the door. "James Alric, her friend." "Leave," replied the voice in subtle rage. Obediently, the boy walked away, puzzled with the situation. Decided to go back home and get some good rest, when he felt something vibrating in the jeans pocket. "I have to talk to you. My parents found that I did drugs with someone, some boy. I didn't say it was you, but now they want to know. We need to talk urgent, about something serious. Meet me in the park, the same spot we tripped together, today between 10 p.m. and midnight. I'll try to leave using the window," told the fresh message received on his cell phone. He didn't remember on trading numbers with Cordelia. How and why would she have his number, was beyond interest, because all his cognitive and problem-solving efforts were now directed towards that strange scenario.